Took a long time to decide what to read. There were so many villains I could choose from. But I've chosen from David Copperfield, Uriah Heep. And he's talking to David Copperfield. They've just been to a party where Agnes Whitfield has been, and she has told him of Uriah's power over her father in his law business, and has begged him, please, to be friendly to Uriah. And I hope you can tell from this passage that it's rather difficult to be friendly to Uriah. There's a lovely illustration of Uriah in there, and he's basically all skeleton and no centre, no heart. Uriah Heep. You have heard something, I dare say, of a change in my expectations, Master Copperfield. I should say, Mr. Copperfield, observed Uriah. Yes, I said, something. I thought Miss Agnes would know of it, he quietly returned. I'm glad to find Miss Agnes knows of it. Oh, thank you, Master, Mr. Copperfield. I could have thrown my bootjack at him. It lay ready on the rug, for having entrapped me into the disclosure of anything concerning Agnes, however immaterial. But I only drank my coffee. What a prophet you have shown yourself, Mr. Copperfield, pursued Uriah. Dear me, what a prophet you have proved yourself to be. Don't you remember saying to me once that perhaps I should be a partner in Mr. Wickfield's business, and perhaps it might be Wickfield and Heep? You may not recollect it, but when a person is humble, Master Copperfield, a person treasures such things up. I recollect talking about it, said I, though I certainly did not think it very likely then. Oh, who would have thought it likely? Mr. Copperfield, returned Uriah enthusiastically. I'm sure I didn't myself. I recollect saying with my own lips that I was much too humble. So I considered myself really and truly. He sat with that carved grin on his face, looking at the fire as I looked at him. But the humblest persons, Master Copperfield, he presently resumed, may be the instruments of good. Oh, I'm glad to think I have been the instrument of good to Mr. Wickfield, and that I may be more so. Oh, what a worthy man he is, Mr. Copperfield, but how imprudent he has been. I'm sorry to hear it, I said. I could not help adding, rather pointedly, on all accounts. Decidedly so, Mr. Copperfield, replied Uriah. On all accounts, Miss Agnes's above all. I remember how you said one day that everyone must admire her, and how I thank you for it. You have forgot that, I've no doubt, Master Copperfield. No, said I dryly. Oh, I'm glad you have not, exclaimed Uriah. To think that you should be the first to kindle the sparks of ambition in my humble breast, and that you've not forgot it. Oh, would you excuse me asking for a cup more coffee? Reacting to his request, preferred in quite another tone of voice, I did the honours of the shaving pot, but I did them with an unsteadiness of hand, a sudden sense of being no match for him, and a perplexed, suspicious anxiety as to what he might be going to say next, which I felt could not escape his observation. He said nothing at all. He stirred his coffee round and round. He sipped it. He felt his chin softly with his grisly hand. He looked at the fire. He looked about the room. He gasped rather than smiled at me. He writhed and undulated about in his deferential servility. He stirred and sipped again. But he left the renewal of the conversation to me. So, Mr. Wickfield, said I at last, has been imprudent, has he, Mr. Heep? How very imprudent indeed, Master Copperfield, returned Uriah, sighing modestly. Oh, very much so, but I wish you'd call me Uriah, if you please. It's like old times. Well, Uriah, said I, bolting it out with some difficulty,
you, he returned with fervour. Thank you, Master Copperfield. It's like the blowing of old breezes or the ringing of old bells to hear you say Uriah. I beg your pardon. Was I making any observation?
About Mr. Whitfield, I suggested.
Oh, yes, truly, said Uriah. A great imprudence, Master Copperfield. It's a topic that I wouldn't touch upon to any soul but you. If anyone else had been in my place during the last years, by this time he would have had Mr. Whitfield, oh, what a worthy man he is, Master Copperfield, too, under his thumb. Under his thumb, said Uriah very slowly, as he stretched out his cruel-looking hand above my table and pressed his own thumb upon it until it shook and shook the room. If I'd been obliged to look at him with him splay foot on Mr. Whitfield's head, I think I could scarcely have hated him more. Oh dear, yes, Master Copperfield, he proceeded, in a soft voice, most remarkably contrasting with the action of his thumb, which did not diminish its hard pressure in the least degree. There's no doubt about it. There would have been loss, disgrace. I don't know what all. Mr. Whitfield knows it. I'm the humble instrument of humbly serving him, and he puts me on an eminence I could hardly have hoped to reach. How thankful should I be? With his face turned towards me as he finished, but without looking at me, he took his crooked thumb off the spot where he had planted it, and slowly and thoughtfully scraped his lank jaw with it, as if he were shaving himself. Master Copperfield, I have risen from my humble station since first you used to address me, it is true, but I am humble still. I hope I shall never be otherwise than humble. You will not think the worse of my humbleness if I will make a little confidence to you, Master Copperfield? Will you? Oh no, said I, with an effort. Thank you. He took out his pocket handkerchief and began wiping the palms of his hands. Miss Agnes, Master Copperfield. Well, Uriah? Oh, how pleasant to be called Uriah spontaneously, he cried, and gave himself a jerk like a convulsive fish. You thought I looking very beautiful tonight, Master Copperfield? I thought her looking as she always does, superior in all respects to everyone around her, I returned. Oh, thank you. It's so true, he cried. Oh, thank you very much for that. Not at all, I said loftily. There's no reason why you should thank me. Why, that, Master Copperfield, said Uriah, is in fact the confidence that I'm going to take the liberty of reposing. Humble as I am, he wiped his hands harder and looked at them and at the fire by turns. Humble as my mother is, and lowly as our poor but honest Ruth has ever been, the image of Miss Agnes, I don't mind trusting you with my secret, Master Copperfield, for I've always overflowed towards you ever since the first moment I had the pleasure of beholding you in a pony shay, has been in my breast for years. Oh, Master Copperfield, with what pure affection do I love the ground my Agnes walks upon. I believe I had the delirious idea of seizing the red-hot poker out of the fire and running him through with it. It went from me with a shock, like a ball fired from a rifle. But the image of Agnes, outraged by so much as a thought of this red-headed animal's, remained in my mind when I looked at him, sitting all awry as if his mean soul griped his body and made me giddy. He seemed to swell and grow before my eyes. The room seemed full of the echoes of his voice, and the strange feeling, to which perhaps no one is quite a stranger, that all this had occurred before at some indefinite time, and that I knew what he was going to say next, took possession of me. A timely observance of the sense of power that there was in his face did more to bring back to my remembrance the entreaty of Agnes in its full force than any effort that I could have made. I asked him, with a better appearance of composure than I could have thought possible a minute before, whether he had made his feelings known to Agnes.